Hello everyone, hoping you're all okay. This is a video for planting bulbs in containers, which is something I did last weekend. Thankfully, as the weather this weekend is just awful, it's very wet, very windy and wild, and I'm very happy that I did my bulbs last weekend, but that's no excuse for you not to get out and do yours. It's absolutely fine to do it in the rain. Just grab a cup of tea and a raincoat and get out there and do it. All you'll need is a container that has a drainage hole, so this could be a terracotta pot, plastic pot, galvanised pot, whatever you like. Bucket, as long as there's a hole in the bottom you can plant into it. Trough, whatever. And you'll need some grit and you'll need some good compost. Compost wise, I just usually go for something that's not too heavy. You don't want manure. Although saying that, you can use manure mixed in with another compost, but I would just keep it simple. Like a John Innes potting on compost is absolutely fine. Or local compost, if you've got someone in the area local that you can buy your compost from, I would do that first. And then just a bag of grit, or a few bags of grit, depending on how many bulbs you've got. So if you're like me, you'll get your box out and you'll inspect all your bulbs and you'll pour over them and be very excited about all the varieties that you forgot you ordered and all the different colour combinations and all the different shaped tulips and narciso bulbs that you've got. So what I basically did was I got a pen and paper out, made a list of all my pots first of all, and I just did a little sketch of, because some of them are quite squat and wide, some of them very tall and narrow, so you just want to have a think about your planting combinations and your colour combinations. I kind of envision the final look, all the heights together, all the colours together. Try and picture the final look. You can Google photographs of every variety that you've got. You can make a little mood board and kind of just mess around with how they look together, and that might give you a good visualisation of it. And that's a really fun part. Once you've done that bit, it's just a planting, and that's quite simple too. In the video I'll show you how you can plant your bulbs in the containers. You can plant them in your borders as well now. It doesn't matter, it's the time to plant bulbs. So, to start with, after you've planned your bulb combinations and you've prepared your bulbs for planting, what you'll need to do is remove any leftover summer planting from the containers and refresh the soil. To do this, I remove with a spade 2/3 of the existing soil left in the containers. This removes any soil lacking in nutrients after feeding the summer plants for months. It also allows you to remove old roots from plants before. Your bulbs will need fine textured soil that their roots can easily grow through. Remember to leave a very small amount of soil in the bottom. Don't waste any of the soil you are removing. You can reuse this by adding to your garden, to your beds and your borders as mulch, particularly any beds which have depleted over time or are very dry. The next job is to prepare your compost and grit mix. I tend to use a ratio of 2/3 compost to 1/3 grit. I use grit in order to give soil an optimum texture. The bulbs will be sat in these containers through the wettest and coldest season of the year. Grit will help drainage and prevent bulbs from rotting off and soil becoming waterlogged. This will give the bulbs the best chance possible. In a wheelbarrow or in your pot, use a spade and stir up the grit and compost mix. Once this is done, go and make a cup of tea, and you are now ready for your first layer of bulbs. In this container I'm planting a mass of one variety in one single layer. Place the tulips around your container. Do not worry too much about spacing. Gently firm the bulb into the soil below. This will prevent them from toppling over when covering them in compost. Now cover over your bulbs with compost and fill right up to the top. Gently smooth over and level out the soil for your winter-spring bedding. I have chosen some jewel-toned wallflowers. This will give the container some interest until the bulbs pop up. This will not in any way hinder your bulbs, so don't worry. In fact, you can leave them in all spring as the bulbs are clever and will always find their way up, around and through the surface plants. In this next container, I'm going to be planting 2 layers. Firstly, Narcissi. Check all the bulbs are firm and not rotten or squishy to the touch in any way before planting. Sit them roots first and the pointed stalk end up. Firm or nestle them into the soil and cover with enough compost so that you cannot see them. Gently smooth out and level the soil with your hand and prepare for your next layer. Next, it's tulips. Like you did with the first layer, place them into the soil. Don't worry at all that they may set on top of a bulb below. I promise you, bulbs always find their way through. The result of planting in 2 layers is that your bulbs will come up at slightly different times and at slightly different heights. This will make for an overall better display. You can plan your pots to grow successionally with mixes of early tulips or other bulbs and late tulips. This will give your pots longer lasting interest. This is what I call a bulb cake or bulb lasagna. Think layers. Simply cover over with soil and you're done. Look out for squirrels and mice because they do tend to dig up the bulbs and eat them. You could put some chicken wire over the top if you wanted to protect them, but mostly in pots they seem to do fine. And then all you have to do is sit back and watch your bulbs grow. It's hard to believe that these will be brimming full of colour come spring, but that's the joy of it. If there's any questions at all, like always, just let me know in the comments below or send me a message and I'll be more than happy to help you. And happy bulb planting!